Well, after a couple of weeks off and various things going on, we're back. Barry, I know that this has been a very difficult and stressful time for you. Could you give us a little update on your family, how everything's going?
It went into town to Martinsville. It's about a 4.5 hour ride west of us. Initially, the idea was to spend a week with my mom. She needs somebody with her, and my two sisters, Pam and Leanne, were both scheduled to be on vacation to be away. So I needed to come home and just be there for a while. And almost immediately, before I could even get into town, my brother-in-law, who has been battling a rare cancer, a very aggressive cancer, was thought to have had a stroke, had some paralysis and lack of function on his left side. It ended up being a tiny spot that grew into a mass
Wow.
on the left side of his brain. So the initial efforts for therapy, rehabilitative therapy, failed completely, and they were not understanding why. So a further scan revealed the cause. Ricky passed away a week ago, this coming Friday, and so was able to come home and then turn right around and go back and attend funeral services, which was a solid, funerals these days, a lot of times they're called celebrations of life. And they celebrated Ricky's life, and they celebrated the life that we have in Messiah, meaningful worship. I saw my sister Pam standing up with hands in the air, worshiping and just really being ministered to.
Wow.
So the family is thankfully one that is supportive, that is loving and encouraging, that functions very well. Pam and Ricky's daughter, Tina, her husband and sons seem to be doing well. And so
Good.
it's been a bit of a roller coaster style thing for the last 2 weeks. A lot of time on the road. My mom is
Yeah.
in November turning 89, and she has her aged struggles that she deals with, and it can be a challenge. But I keep remembering this is the same woman that took care of me how many years and
Yeah.
prayed me out of how many situations. So, buddy, buck up and be a good son. So
There you go.
but we're well.
Good.
Thankful for that. And
Good.
thank you for
Good.
all who were praying. The impact of your prayers were
Yeah.
absolutely.
Continued prayers for Pam, for the family, and for wisdom
Yes.
for your mom in dealing with that situation. You mentioned a loving and caring family, which brings us to your 7 sins of Ephraim toward Yehudah, which I added number 8 to. And that is that this family, Ephraim, has not treated Yehudah in a loving and caring manner. In fact, so just to read what you put down in number 3 is we have claimed moral superiority over Yehudah. Of course, if it wasn't for the book of Daniel and Daniel standing and praying and in doing so with a we, I would go, I would fight over this word we, but I understand that this is a corporate thing. And if the shoe doesn't fit, thank God that it doesn't fit. All right.
Correct.
For
Yes.
those of us that have maybe repented for this idea, Barry, I have to go to the prodigal son on this. Something I talked to you about the other day.
Mm-hmm.
When the prodigal son came back, we read in Luke chapter 15 that he repented to his father. He came in just saying, "Hey, I'll be a servant. And instead, the father gave him the position of son. He gave it back to him. He was restored totally and completely. But there is a thought in my mind that it says that his brother was in the field. Is it possible that the prodigal son walked by his brother instead of going over to his brother first and repenting to him and then going to the father? Or after the father restored him, hey, I got to go talk to my brother in the field. Either way, there's not anything said that he repented to his brother, and therefore there was not complete restoration. Is that same scenario with Ephraim and Yehudah?
That's one angle. I mean, when you read this particular story, you can look at it from many angles here. Obviously, it's been well preached about the mercy and compassion of the father toward a broken down, worn out son who has come to the end of himself because of his terrible choices. As you were reading that and commenting on that, Mike, I turned quickly to this story, and it says that not many days after the younger son got his part, which would have been far less than what the elder son got. The elder son would have gotten a double portion.
Yeah.
So this younger son took his portion and went away to a distant country. He's in exile. The thought that came to my mind was, did the older son say, good riddance? He has been nothing but a problem since, I can remember. The long-term animosity and dysfunction of family between these two houses goes all the way back, not just to 1 Kings 12, where the tribes were divided. It goes back to Yaakov's sons. And it's not like that there was a happy house for a long time. Even when the tribes got in the land, there was intertribal warfare.
Yeah.
They almost wiped out Benjamin completely, and then grieved that they had done so. So the animosity that is there and animosity that exists today, it is very, very deep rooted. The problem is, as you are describing here, is that when the younger son, the house of Ephraim, came back to the father, which is what we have experienced in our own salvation experiences, where we as sinners return to him, repented, and have been seeking to walk with him and sit at his table. The problem is, we have so rejoiced in our own party, like you said, we've forgotten the faithfulness of the older brother. If it had not been for the house of Yehudah, let's be even more specific, the Jewish people maintaining some semblance of observance of these ancient things, whether we think they're doing it exactly right or not is beside the point.
Yeah.
It's not about methodology. It's that they even retain knowledge of these things. Let's be even more basic. If it had not been for them giving their lives to protect Torah scrolls and the scrolls of the prophets and the writings, so that we would have authentic copies to this day, if it had not been for them protecting their culture, even when it was demanded to the point of death that they assimilate, we would have little, if anything, of what we claim to be legitimate now. I have this book in front of me, the scriptures. I wouldn't have this if it wasn't for the Jewish people.
Yeah.
The idea that our Messiah is anything other than the ultimate Jew, that he would be an American or a European or any other ethnicity, and that he has changed his identity in order to be more appealing to us, because we think that the Jews are offensive for whatever Jewish hatred mindsets that we have adopted. That's ludicrous. He is who he is. In all reality, Mike, we have been adopted by the ultimate Jew into the Hebrew family.
Mm-hmm.
So without his Jewish culture, without his Jewish raising, without his Jewish people and family, we wouldn't even have the reality of Messiah. So and for us to have a look down our nose attitude, well, the Father came to me. The Father ran to meet me.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if, though, he had not looked out the window and watched the faithfulness of his other son and admired him and loved him and sent food and water to him in the field.
So you mentioned the word superiority along the way in this. Superiority is basically, as you said, looking down upon another person. It's also wrongly elevating my own status. So in order for me to work out this superiority thing, I elevate my status and then I decrease their status. Not understanding a lot of things you just said right there is that the only reason I have a status is because of what has been given to me. That being said, Christianity as a whole has a very interesting dichotomy, almost an oxymoron that they're trying to work through. And that is that there's replacement theology. So the church, Christianity, and dare say that doctrine is still not been put to death in many messianic circles and Hebrew root circles. So there is this replacement theology on one hand, but on the other hand, well, the Jews are God's chosen people. Those two ideas cannot exist in the same in the same sentence. They are exclusive of each other and cause a very big problem. It's really a contradiction in the very theology. So Judaism today has become to many people a pawn in the eyes of the prophecy pundits out there. I'm going to tone down my rhetoric on that one. The prophecy pundits basically use Israel and the Jewish people as their pawns on a chessboard, thinking they are the king. And so I can pretty much just kind of, knock over the pawns because I'm protecting myself. This goes to pre-tribulation rapture theories, to what is going on in Israel today. People saying, well, I know the back of the book. Well, it's just the Jews over there. This sickening idea of not personalizing the brother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it kind of comes down to, you had this in your house, probably with you and Pam and Greg and Leanne. I can see Leanne doing this. Well, I'm mom and dad's favorite. And then you looking and going, well, I'm mom and dad's favorite. That never happened in your house?
No.
Come on, go ahead. Throw yourself under the bus with Leanne.
No, I used to tease the rest of them. Well, I know I'm mom's favorite, but
Yeah. See, I, on the other hand, could say that and got a thumbs up for it. I, on the other hand, could say that I was my mother's
you
favorite
had no
because I was the only
competition.
child.
Yeah. Bless your heart.
Yeah, I know. Okay. But isn't that kind of the idea, Barry? of when of Christianity, of Messianic Hebrew roots people. It's kind of like, well, I'm God's favorite because I'm doing it all perfectly, and those stupid Jews still haven't figured it out. I mean, am I really that far off in my statement?
I'll take it a step further.
Uh-oh.
What you're saying, there is this mindset, I think, among some, perhaps many, that when we get into the kingdom, that the Jews will be forced to acquiesce and accept our version of things, and that they will finally realize he is the Messiah we believe him to be. And you're going to have to accept that. We will quote Zechariah, I think, chapter 12, that they will look upon him who they pierced, and they will mourn for him. Well, the reality is, I think we will too, because we have to realize that the wounds of Messiah belong to our debt as much as anybody's. So there is that. Then there is also this mindset that, well, they will all be Christians then. I know. No, it's not going to work that way either. So I think we all, and I like the way Hanok Young puts it, Mike, when we stand before whoever Messiah is, as he would say, that we will find out in that day, well, you did this right, but you need to correct that. And then he will be looking at Hanok and say so much the same thing. You had this well, but you need to improve here. Something else that Hanok said here a couple, 3 weeks ago on your Israel update, and it just, boom, hit me right upside the head. He said something, and this is the paraphrase, not a direct quote, that he said, I am not limited or bound by your view of eschatology.
Yeah.
Because he was, people were saying, well, it must be that our next prophecy that we anticipate being fulfilled is right on the edge because this is happening. And so you need to be prepared to know for this event because, this is what's going to happen next. And he said, we don't look at prophecy that way. Well, I have to be willing to appreciate not only Hanok, but the Jewish people's perspective on the last days. Whereas we're reading about it in Scripture, the people in the land are living it. They are experiencing the positives and now, in many respects, the negative aspects of prophecy. Not that Yah is judging them, but rather that he is raising up nations against them that he might be revealed as the ultimate redeemer.
So they've been living in hotel rooms for 11 months in the north.
Cannot imagine.
They've been living in a hotel room. I mean, people think hotels are something romantic as craziness. If you've ever stayed, been extended travel like I have, and you have hotel rooms in the end,
They get old.
They stink. You never know what's behind the door. You never know what you're going to take with you the next day. I mean, it's you get there and it's dirty and something's always wrong and something's not working, and to have to live in that environment for 11 months, and people here just go, oh wow, look at the number of rockets, not thinking about the person, the family, a family of a mom and dad, 5 children that spent all last night in a bomb shelter. Because in certain areas of the land of Israel up north, you have less than a minute to get to that bomb shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, this may be the end of your family. Putting a face to it instead of this moral superiority that has been propagated. Once again, the other day, I turned on a news broadcast on a Hebrew radio station, and this guy with it was I could see him almost foaming at the mouth. The other host had to say, "You're overdriving your microphone." He was at the edge of being rabid, needed a shot, or a shot collar one, downgrading the nation of Israel, saying that America was Israel now, and America is what has the covenant, and we are the covenant people. Talk about superiority.
That is a prime example of what we're discussing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had to come to the conclusion because I have talked with the people that run this station over and over again, and I've had to come to the conclusion that I guess that they agree. Because see, if you don't take a stand against lunacy, then you agree either because you agree or by default, one of the two, but you must agree. And if anyone agrees with anything having to do with that God has changed, the Almighty has changed his mind regarding a covenant people and a covenant land, I don't want to have anything to do with them. Period.
I also want to mention this. I won't say we, I will say I am not suggesting that if you are Jewish, you get a pass
No.
on required righteous living. But I know that there are many in the land and in the nations, for that matter, who are Jewish. They seek the face of their Father in heaven fervently, faithfully, frequently, and they seek to live out what they understand and know to be true. They go through the liturgies in their synagogues, and they attend to their cultural instructions and understandings. If we're wanting to be honest and fair, then we have to admit we do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that we were not raised in a Jewish culture. Neither can I adopt Jewish culture, dress, manner, identities, choose a Jewish biblical name for myself to replace my given American name, and take on their identity without their permission.
Yeah.
I mean, who would, if I were to, and I've had some occasions to do this, if I went into a Native American gathering without invitation and just showed up and had gone to a store and bought what I thought was Native American
Oh yeah.
clothing and appointments, and did so without their permission, if they understood that what I had done, they would be offended. I have been invited, I have been included, and I've been given the privilege of wearing their regalia, and it was an honor. But we can't adopt and think that we are included without permission, or that we have the right to do so. It smacks in my mind that we violate the boundaries. There are boundaries of propriety, and we violate them and have traditionally violated them. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying as the House of Israel, the Ephraim, as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And you may say, excuse me, I didn't do any of that, Barry. I don't know what you're talking about. But we claim to be a part of a group that has. And so it would help
guilty by
us.
default.
It would help
guilty by
us.
association.
Yes. it would help us, I believe, during these days of Elul and heading into Yom Kippur, to be aware of this and repent for the whole. As you mentioned, Daniel said, I and my fathers have sinned.
Mm.
He didn't commit the sins necessarily that his fathers committed, but he put himself in that group and repented for the whole.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm asking, that we be willing to do ourselves.
So this thing of guilty by association, when I go to Israel and someone sees me as a Christian, or they see me as Messianic or Hebrew roots or whatever, I'm guilty of all the sin of the people before me by association. I don't meet people in Israel on level ground.
No.
I meet people in the hole that someone dug for me. Is that fair? Life is not fair. So you talked about being respectable. It's like a political candidate that's from the north coming to the south and speaking with a southern accent.
It's
How
insulting.
stupid! It's insulting to me. I mean, I can teach you how to speak Southern if you want, but don't come down and insult me with making fun of my accent. So if I go, I'm scheduled to go to Talking Rock, Georgia, with a group of Native Americans and do the tabernacle. If I decide to go to Cherokee, just north of us, the week prior to, and buy a headdress and and all the regalia and just show up, that would be totally and completely insulting, out of bounds, out of the boundaries that we have. Yeah. So there, we need to be respectful. Need to be respectful. You said something else that I'm trying to come back to, and I can't quite remember what it was. So if I get it,
There
I'll
was so
bring it.
much good in there. Mike, just pick some.
There was Barry. It was just, I mean, I'm overwhelmed with your wisdom, and I'm having to turn the brightness down on my computer today.
It's amazing.
It really is. So this superiority thing that you're talking about. I go to Israel and I learn. Now, here's what I was going to say. You talked about uh, the relationship, and that the Jews do not get a free pass. In fact, let me take that to another level. If in this prophetically, Yehudah is the older brother, the older brother has a responsibility to live at a higher standard, to be an example to the family. So if I'm talking to a Jewish person, and their standard of life is let's say just not caring regarding the scripture, regarding the Torah, if their lifestyle is one of debauchery, if their lifestyle is one of their lifestyle or language, whatever it is not at least an attempt to righteousness, then I have nothing to talk to them about. Until a person sets a standard, a higher standard, don't look down on me.
Yeah.
If your standard in life is pretty low, trying to come up with some illustrations here, and I'm at a loss. But if your lifestyle, if you're in you're in some kind of a house of ill repute or something, don't talk to me about morality.
Mhm.
Okay.
One last thought on my side here, Mike, is that when the younger son, who is representative of ourselves, came to the father, he came with an attitude of, I'm willing and only requesting to be a servant in your house.
Yeah.
I realize I have lost my sonship. I've squandered my sonship. I have no right to ask anything. It was the Father who did the elevating, which brings me to mind of, if I can get here very, very quickly, 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. Humble yourselves then under the mighty hand of Elohim so that he exalts you in due time.
There you go.
Our role is to come with humility and a servant heart, as Yeshua in John 13 taught us. Take aside your splendor robes and put on a towel and serve somebody. If we will have that heart, if we have the privilege of going to the land, or the privilege of encountering someone who is Jewish in this land, and we come with an humble servant heart, not boasting, not bragging, not throwing our head up in superiority over them, but listening to what they have to say, thinking that's more important that I hear them than that they listen to what all my sermon includes.
Yeah.
If we do that, Mike, we have an opportunity for an open door. You never know where a good conversation might go. But when we go with our belief emblazed on our T-shirts and hats, and we think that they owe us something, I understand the turnoff. I get it.
Yeah. Well, what is happening in this world today is prophesied in Isaiah chapter 11, starting in verse 12. He will hoist a banner for the Goyim, assemble the dispersed of Israel, and gather the scattered of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. Ephraim's jealousy will cease.
Yes.
Those who harass Yehudah will be cut off. Ephraim will stop envying Yehudah, and Yehudah will stop provoking Ephraim. If anybody wants to put those in terms today, look at that as a overlay. The prodigal son, the older brother, Yehudah, the prodigal son, Ephraim. Put that over these words, and you will see what is happening today in our world.
Amen.
All right. See
Folks,
you next
thank
week,
you so
Barry.
much. Thank you for watching, sharing on your social media. Thank you again for your prayers for myself and my family. And we look forward to seeing y'all next week. So see you then, Mike.
You got it. See you.